Hey everybody, it's Melissa from melissatoller.com, and as you can see, I have a very special guest with me today, Miss Devi Ward of DaviWardTantra.com, and I'll introduce Devi in a minute, but first I just want to let you know that we're going to have a very stimulating conversation today that I think you will absolutely love. Now, you know, my mission is to help women stop putting life on hold until they're finally happy with their bodies. And the reason is because we miss out on a lot of incredible things in various areas of our life, like business, money, career, relationships, and sex, intimate connections with our partners. And that's why we have Devi here today to talk to us. Now, I'll introduce you to her before we jump into a really juicy conversation. So, Devi is an internationally recognized Tantra and female sexuality expert. She's a certified Tantra healer and one of only 2 people in North America who are qualified to teach the secret Tibetan 5-element sexual tantras, which stem from a 2,600-year-old lineage of Tibetan Tantric Buddhism. She is an author and a radio host of Better Love and Sex with Devi Ward, which airs live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific Time on Contact Talk Radio. So Devi has an incredibly diverse background. She was a monk for 10 years, a stripper, a model, an organic gardener, and a student of natural health and alternative medicine. Now, as a survivor of sexual and physical trauma, Devi calls upon her own experience of sexual healing and personal transformation to support and guide women through the process of reclaiming their sexual selves. And she's been featured as a Tantra and female sexuality expert in countless articles and over 30 different radio and television networks. She is also the author of Shake Your Soul Song, A Woman's Guide to Self-Empowerment through the Art of Self-Pleasure. So thank you so much, Devi, for being here with us today. So I invited you here today because women come to me because they want to lose weight. But when I start to dig deeper and ask them what it is that they really want, then we start to uncover the real reasons. They want to make more money. They want to be more confident. They want to have a better, deeper connection with their significant others. Some people have just come out and said, I'd like to be getting laid more. So I want to really talk about that and then leave the audience with some tips for what they can do to improve that area of their lives. So if you would, just talk a little about how body image can affect a woman's desire to be intimate and connected with her partner.
Well, I mean, the reality is if we feel gross, right, or frumpy or unsexy or unhappy,
Yes.
we don't really have much of a desire to be close to another person. So think of it when you're sick, right? When I'm sick, I want to be in bed by myself. I don't even want my cat around. I'm just like, leave me alone. I want to crawl into my hole, right? So not that being overweight is like being sick, but you're not feeling your best. And oftentimes the thing is that along with physically not thinking that you look your best, you also have a lot of internal dialogue that's self-sabotaging and shaming. So you have this negative internal dialogue. Well, the thing about making love, having sex, is it's an expression of joy.
Yes.
An expression of pleasure. It's like your heart is open and it's moved towards union with this other person. Well, if we're all caught up in how crappy we feel and how unworthy we are of love because I wear a size 12 instead of a size 2,
yeah.
We're not going to have a lot of inspiration. We're not going to have a lot of motivation. We're not going to have a lot of openness towards being intimate with our partners, with our significant others. And I've certainly been there. I mean, throughout my life, I'm an half African American woman, and I'm a thick woman, right? And I've fluctuated between being close to 200 pounds and being 120 pounds, right? So my weight throughout my life has fluctuated. And I know that certainly at certain times when I'm heavier than I would like to be, I have a lot of shame, which comes from our culture, shaming, If you're above a size 6, you're unworthy of love, basically. The thing is, what I find really beautiful, especially about our partners, is our partners love us. Yeah. They love us, right? And though they may, it would be nice if we look like bikini models, whatever. That, and some, my experience with men generally like a more curvaceous woman. Yeah. That's been my experience with a lot of the men. Maybe that's just the kind of men that I attract. I'm a curvaceous. They better like curvaceous. But a lot of men that I interact with say that they enjoy the voluptuousness and the curve of a woman. And so I may be crying because, oh my God, I'm wearing a size 10. Oh my God. And my male partner's like, bring me that booty. So I think that as women, we're harder on ourselves. Yeah. Than our partners are, and a lot of it has to do with our culture and what we're taught, is the ideal beauty, and we feel like worthless pieces of poo poo if we don't fit this ideal, and that's what's heartbreaking. So the way we feel about ourselves is absolutely going to impact our desire to be physically intimate with another person. Yeah. It will impact it. So it's good to recognize that, but we don't have to stop there. We don't have to be trapped by that or limited by that.
So that brings me to my next question. So in a lot of the conversations that I've had with my clients around this issue, and I am by no means a relationship or sex expert, but in my encouraging them to have the conversation and I guess in a way make a bigger deal of this, many of them have said, well, it's not that important. I don't really need to, I don't want to sacrifice my relationship because I'm not getting laid. Like, they don't want to bring up the conversation. So, what I'd like for you to kind of tell us is, why is it so important for human beings, but women especially, to really experience connection and intimacy and pleasure?
And specifically sexual connection, intimacy, and pleasure.
Yes.
Because you can have connection, intimacy, and pleasure without the actual sexuality involved. And I think that the sexuality is a crucial element that's often overlooked. And there's a number of reasons why it's overlooked. And there's also a number of reasons, because, it's not just one thing, a number of reasons why it's incredibly important for us to be consciously cultivating this aspect of our lives on a daily basis. Not saying we have to have sex every day, but consciously cultivating our sensuality. So there's a few different layers of it. First, I'm going to talk about physiologically. Okay, so having to do with the body.
Yep.
And if you want verification of my sources on this, I'm going to encourage you and all you fabulous people out there to pick up Naomi Wolf's book, Vagina.
Okay,
it's her latest publication. It is the most phenomenal dissertation. It's an incredibly engaging read. But it's also a scientific dissertation on the connection between a woman's sexual pleasure and the quality of her happiness in life. Mm-hmm. She does it not from theory, but from actual science. Yeah. She points to the actual scientific evidence that connects female sexual pleasure and the secretions that happen in the brain, the dopamine, the opiates, the oxytocin, that directly contribute to our sense of self-empowerment, our confidence, our passion, our purpose, our inspiration, our creativity, our connection to other human beings, all the qualities that what we consider to be an archetypal empowered woman. Empowered in the masculine sense, but a truly empowered woman with an open, loving, compassionate heart, who's on fire, who's creative, who's inspirational, who's loving and kind. All these qualities of super woman that, like, none of us can actually achieve because, whatever. It's insane. But our sexuality, our sexual pleasure, specifically prioritizing that and having a partner who prioritizes that with us is the fundamental key for us as women on a physical level to accessing these qualities that we all aspire to, the superwoman qualities. Because of the chemicals that are released in the brain and the bloodstream when we experience what's called high orgasm. So we're not talking about a genital sneeze. We're not talking about your average 2-minute clitoral orgasm where you're like, okay, I'm ready for bed after. We're talking about vaginal orgasms. We're talking about high female orgasm and a high orgasmic state, which takes time. It can take anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
When this occurs, when we experience this high state of orgasm, it changes our physiology, okay? Which changes our brain chemistry, which changes our orientation to life. Does that make sense?
Deep, yes. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Right? So what's going on in our hormones and our chemicals and our chemistries absolutely affect our outlook on life. It also affects our emotions, our emotional relationship to life itself.
So it sounds like that is one of the reasons that a lot of women are sort of like shut down and totally turned off. Because one of the things that you said to me when we first talked a few weeks ago, you said a turned on woman is like a magnet. I have it written down. I love it.
Yes.
Because like it sounds very intuitive, but a lot of us aren't turned on sexually to life, just like kind of living on autopilot, and our lives kind of reflect that. So
yes, well, absolutely. So there's other aspects to it. So turned on being, and I'm talking about sexual arousal, turn on. So think of when you've had really good sex. We've all had it, whether it's with ourselves or someone else.
Yes.
You just had a great orgasm.
Yes.
If we don't go right to sleep afterwards, because sometimes it's late at night. But for instance, I was at one of my men's house the other night, and we had great sex, great orgasm, and driving home, I felt like I was on cloud 9. I was walking through the store to do some grocery shopping, and I'm literally like floating 2 feet off the ground. And I had people coming up to me wanting to talk to me, and I'm just because we emit this energy that's attractive, that's literally magnetic.
Wow.
Sexual energy is literally magnetic. And that's interesting because in the Tibetan Tantra teachings, the sex chakra, once that energy is charged, the magical power that is unleashed is that of magnetizing and attracting.
Totally makes sense. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So everything that you've said so far makes absolute sense, but now it's how. Yeah. How can we get to this place? Are there some tips that you can give women to be more connected sexually, either to themselves or to their partners, or both? Like, what's the next step for women who get what you're saying but want to put things into practice?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I want to say is that our sexual connection is always primarily to ourselves first. Okay? If we don't have a positive relationship to our own bodies and our own sexuality, we are not going to have a truly positive, completely, fully realized sexual relationship with another human being.
Yeah, totally.
Our first sexual relationship is with ourselves. Okay? Yeah. So it's all about the way my approach to this work is uncovering, revealing that innocent, sacred, beautiful, sexual power and passion that resides within all of us, and cultivating and allowing that to blossom and flower and grow and move through the blocks to that, the conditions that have been placed, the oppression of that, just blow those out of the picture, so that then we can bring that to another person. We show up as that in our relationships. So some tips for doing that. Well, there's a variety. It's part of what I teach, but right off the top of my head, number one is I encourage all women to invest in some sensual movement practices. So what does that mean? That could mean something as simple as turning on some music, closing the blinds, lighting some candles, and getting your freak on. And dancing. Dancing for the pure joy of dancing, but connecting with your body. So moving, and there's specific movements that are sensual. So figure 8 movements, undulations, circles, but exploring your sensual vocabulary. What that's going to do, if you're able to actually really be present with the movement, it's going to help you get out of your head and get into your body.
Oh, yeah.
That's where life begins. Life starts in our bodies.
Live up here, though.
Well, yeah, and that's our culture.
Yeah,
totally. That's what culture teaches us. And yet life happens, pleasure happens, orgasm happens in the actual physical body.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay? So sensual movement for women particularly, because we live in such a yang, very linear culture. Our minds are very linear and intellectual. So movements that are sensual, that are fluid, that are feminine are going to help us reconnect with that yin essence, that feminine quality.
Okay.
Plus, you're gonna get your sexy on. You're gonna feel
Yes.
sexy. I mean, some of my students report that they get really turned on by doing these movements, and they want to go have sex with somebody, with themselves or their partner. So, woo!
So investing in some movement and
sensual movement. And what I mean by investing is, it could be taking a class, it could be getting a DVD, and primarily the investment is going to be of your time.
Oh,
so yes. I literally mean put it in your day planner.
Make a date with yourself.
Make a date with yourself. Very important. Making a date with yourself. Okay. Prioritizing pleasure. That's number one. Number two, speaking of making a date with yourself, I'm going to encourage you to masturbate. That's radical. I'm not joking.
No,
seriously.
I know you're not joking.
And I don't mean for 2 minutes. I mean taking the time to take a nice bath with some, sensual movement. Not sensual movement, some sensual music. You can do sensual movement beforehand. Movement, maybe some oils, oiling yourself up afterwards, going to your bedroom, letting your partner know or your kids know, don't bother mommy. It's, for 20 minutes. I'm serious about taking 20 minutes of time to connect with your body. And that would include some sensual massaging your genitals, just taking your time looking at yourself, maybe getting a mirror and observing. How often do we observe our genitals? But how do we expect ourselves to have a healthy sexual relationship with a partner if we can't even touch our genitals, if we can't even look at our genitals, right?
Yes.
So I like to call this, a sensual exploration. And then touching yourself, finding out what kind of touch you like. Where on your clitoris is it the most pleasurable? Do you like having your inner labia touched? How does that feel? What does it feel like when you use coconut oil on your whole vulva? Oh. Exploring, taking some time to explore specifically your sensual touch in your genitals. Because one of the things I talk about in my book is, as women, our relationship to our vaginas is either to wash them or wet them. That's it. That's the only time they get touched. We're either trying to wash them or somebody else is trying to get them wet. And that's it. We have no other relationship to them whatsoever, right? So I'm talking about coming back to innocence, because when we were all children, all of us, there was a time, probably between the ages of 1 and 4, when we were all about checking out our vulvas. Yes. That was like it was fascinating. We could not keep our hands off of it. We wanted to look at it, touch it, put things inside of it. It was like magical fairyland in there, right? Yes. And we were taught that good girls don't do that. Yes, keep your hand down in your panties. Exactly. Good girls don't do that. No. And so we all want to be good girls, and so because of that, we were taught that imprints into our consciousness on a really deep level that in order to be loved, approved of, accepted by the people around us, we cannot touch our vulvas. We can touch our toes, we can touch our nose, we can touch our hair, but we cannot touch our genitals and still receive approval and acceptance. Yeah. That's huge. Major. That's your number one block. Yeah, major. Sensual movement, sensual exploration. Anything else that we can do to get connected? Yes, absolutely. My other number one recommendation is meditate. And I don't mean think of big pink bubbles. That's not the kind of meditation. I mean, focus on your breath. Breathe deeply in your belly. So you just did that, and look what happened. Yeah, feels good. Yeah. Exactly. The breath is the bridge of the mind and the body. So when we take our attention and we focus it on the breath, we instantly get connected and present in the physical body. Yes. The physical body, being present in the physical body, is the gateway to being present in the moment. Okay? So if we want to reconnect with our body, we need to reconnect with our breath. Oftentimes we're doing this.
Yes, those little shallow breaths.
Shallow breaths, right?
Yes.
Which keep us in the state of, that's fight or flight breathing.
Yeah.
So it keeps us in a low level state of fight or flight response,
Yeah.
stress response. So just by shifting the focus and doing some deep belly breathing, that's going to shift you from sympathetic nervous system response, fight or flight, to parasympathetic, rest and relax, which is where creativity, pleasure, orgasm, play all come from when we're in that resting autonomic nervous system response. It must be in a state of rest and relaxation to function the way the universe designed it to function.
Powerful stuff. So, to summarize, first of all, I think this is really important. Good sex starts with you. That's
absolutely
critical.
Yeah.
The 3 things you can do: sensual, invest in sensual movement. The biggest investment will be your time. Sensual exploration, masturbation, and then finally meditate, connecting with your breath and getting out of your head so you can just get really into your body and experience connection and pleasure and all those good feelings.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's a practice. Like it's mindfulness, right? It's a practice. It doesn't just happen all at once. It's daily, every day. If you think of any art or any new skill that we cultivate, we practice.
Absolutely.
We set aside time to practice. We set aside time to practice. So, in all these things, if we want to be exceptional in the art of self-love, self-connection, and sexual pleasure, we set aside time to play. We set aside time to play.
Set aside time to play and practice. And you know what? I think the number one thing with anything that you want to change is awareness and acknowledgement. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. I think Dr. Phil says that all the time. But it is so true. You must acknowledge that this is something that is natural. It's part of you. It is one of your deepest desires to be sensually and sexually pleased and fulfilled. Therefore, it deserves attention, and you have to practice. Like, that's really the bottom line.
It's our God-given right. And the thing is that, we're living in a culture that teaches us that God is separate from sex, right? So that's a wounding right there. But the other thing is we receive no education. We receive no pleasure education. We receive abstinence only. You're going to get STDs, use condoms, and don't get pregnant.
Yeah.
That's what they tell you, right? But we receive no education on how to actually experience, to receive, and to give pleasure. So as adults, we need to learn that.
Yes.
We need to be educated. If we want to learn how to do anything, it's like we needed to learn to tie our shoe. We weren't born knowing how to tie our shoe. And a lot of people say, oh, well, sex is instinctual. Well, yeah, if you're a dog, but do you want to have sex like a dog for the rest of your life, or do you want to have sex like a human?
Yes. Thank you so much. So the sexual education piece, especially with the pleasure, is huge. And having people like you who are so willing and open to have this conversation is major. Like, it's not something to be kept in the closet. It is a conversation that we could be having with our partners, our friends, our female friends. Like, make it fun, because it should be. And it enhances every other area of your life. And for the people who come to me to lose weight, automatically losing 10 or 20 pounds isn't necessarily just going to automatically make your sex life better. There's some work that you have to invest in that as well.
Absolutely. And having sex will help you lose weight. It's the best exercise on the planet. It is. It's been clinically proven.
Absolutely.
You burn more calories during sex than you do any other exercise.
Yes. So ladies, let's have some more sex, basically.
Amen.
So Devi, thank you so much for this conversation. I would love to have you back, because I know that this is a topic that people want to hear about but are afraid to really talk about. So for all of you out there watching, please go to DeviWardTantra.com for all things sex and pleasure and love. And by all means, tune into her show, Better Love and Sex with Devi Ward, on Contact Talk Radio every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And of course, always come back to melissatoller.com for my no-nonsense approach to help you live a life of pure joy and freedom. All right, we will see you next time. Thanks.